BB851, turn right, heading 180. 14 Papa, turn right 245, report localizer established 27.
Welcome back to another one of the regular aviation news recap videos here on the channel. Lots of little things have happened in recent days, and as the week comes to a close, I thought why not bring it all together in this recap. Today's video features news surrounding the Boeing 777X and delays it's now facing when it comes to a delivery, a specific route restarting, and a whole lot more. Beginning with a rather intriguing story, and that's with Qatar Airways, who recently took delivery of 3 brand new A350-1000 aircraft. However, these deliveries were a tiny bit different to what you might imagine. Before I explain that area, following the delivery of these 3 more A350s, the airline has officially now welcomed on a total of 50 plus A350s. This is between both the Dash 900 and the Dash 1000 variants. The exact total stands at 52. These delivery flights, though, essentially flew up to the United Kingdom, totally avoiding the usual flight path you'd imagine them to go if they were headed to Doha, which would be quite straightforward. There's a really interesting article by Aviation 24 you can find in the sources area, but these jets flew that way thanks to a leasing contract that essentially needed these planes to fly over the United Kingdom at some point. It's absolutely mental to think this would be in a contract, but it's completely true, all of it. Moving across to Hong Kong with Cathay Pacific, who recently announced a major restructuring plan, which included the closure of Cathay Dragon. However, the airline also has a number of aircraft coming into its operations in the future, with it including the Boeing 777Xs, Boeing's latest wide-body aircraft, currently in the process of being certified. Following the global pandemic, loads of questions surrounded whether or not the 777X would still be required with some airlines. Cathay Pacific was originally meant to welcome on their Boeing 777-9s from 2021 through to 2024. Boeing, though, recently announced that they wouldn't be delivering the type to customers till at least 2022. With those changes already being announced, we've now been given the news Cathay plans on delaying these beyond 2025, quoting that we won't see them in the next 5 years with the airline. This isn't exactly what I'd say is a shock. Cathay are in a position where it's safe to say they're fighting for survival within the industry, and welcoming on an aircraft like the 777X, even in 2022, wouldn't be the best course of action for them in the future, I feel personally. Remember the world's longest flight? Yep, that mammoth Singapore to New York flight that we saw launched not that long ago using the A350 ULR. Well, there's been a slight change to the end destination to the service. It's nothing major, but given the current aviation industry, I thought it might be cool to mention it at the very least. The new service has been shifted from Newark to JFK. Singapore Airlines describes the reasoning behind the decision as this. Operating to JFK International Airport would allow Singapore Airlines to better accommodate a mix of passenger and cargo traffic on its services to New York in the current operating climate. SIA's non-stop services to New York will also be supported by the growing number of transfer passengers who can now transit via Singapore Changi Airport. The service will resume on the 9th of November this year and will fly on Mondays, Wednesdays and Saturdays. The adjustments will see the A350 therefore sitting on the ground in JFK for almost 2 days. You might have heard me there mention the A350 and not the A350 ULR. That's because the second change is that Singapore Airlines will utilise a standard A350-900 with 253 seats made up of 42 business class seats, 24 in premium economy, and finally just over 150 in economy on their A350-900. But on the A350 ULR, which is specifically designed for these long services, there is no economy. In fact, you could say the standard economy is essentially known as premium economy on the A350 ULR, which has priced out a number of people from taking the service in the first place and explained at times the drop-off in passenger demand for the Singapore to Newark service pre-pandemic. Moving across to Airbus and the A220, as briefly covered when I discussed Delta News in an earlier news recap, Airbus did go on to recently deliver their very first US-assembled A220 from their Alabama plant to Delta. For Airbus, this highlights the importance on them achieving their goal of becoming a global aircraft producer within the United States, a location where they personally believe the A220 will thrive. The chairman and CEO of Airbus America commented on the delivery and milestone, going on to say, The delivery of the first US-built A220-300 is a historic moment that highlights Airbus's growing industrial footprint in North America and makes us all extremely proud. We look forward to seeing the passengers delighted by the experience of travelling on board this brand new A220-300 proudly built in Mobile, Alabama. A220 production started in Alabama back in August of 2019, with the inaugural flight coming in June of 2020. Airbus plans on continuing to build A220s in this plant and hope that once the global pandemic clears, the demand continues to grow for the aircraft series, and more US-based customers, or at the very least those in close proximity, will be willing to plunge and order the type. The man leading the A220 program said, "Handing over the first US-assembled aircraft to a US-based customer is a real point of pride for the A220 program. This delivery is the first of many to come and shows the strong collaborative spirit between the A220 program teams globally." If you have any thoughts on the topics covered in this video, do not hesitate to comment them down below in the comments. And as always, thank you very much for the continued support. It is greatly appreciated. I look forward to seeing you all in the next video, and like always, please continue to do your best to stay safe during these trying times. And while the videos aren't always on positive topics, I hope at the very least they can give you something to look forward to on a regular basis, as I do certainly enjoy making them for you.